You kind of did touch on this a little bit, just in terms of the alignment. I think it was your third, learning. I think you said alignment is really, really hard. And it sounds like just in the sense of having the CEO be the leader of this project in of itself, I'm sure is incredibly helpful for getting alignment. But once you've got those, I think 4 or 5 people in that room, and I'm sure there's a lot of debate and disagreement, healthy disagreement. How do you go about navigating that and getting everybody to a consensus? Do you have any tips on that?
So this is some secret sauce. Not that it's secret, but it's just like a lot to explain. But one thing, maybe I'll give you some sense of it. So when I started that company a long time ago, we ran into a place where like we were having a really hard time executing. And one of the VCs introduced me to a management consultant named Howard Goldman. And I introduced Howard to I talked to Howard, and Howard's whole approach was how to run a meeting so that you get the different opinions and you kind of come up with a decision and move forward. And it sounds like such a simple thing, but it was in a way more valuable than anything I learned in business school. When Howard told me this, I said, I think that can really help us. I told my co-founder, who's Japanese, his name is Zen, about it. Zen met Howard and was like, yeah, this is bullshit. But I overruled Zen, and we brought in Howard, and he helped us so much and Zen became was so impressed. Zen eventually became like Howard's disciple and created this, and went back to Japan and like created like the Howard multi-level marketing of consultants of meetings consultants. But I got a lot from Howard in terms of how to run a meeting, and I use a lot of that stuff. And some of the things are, I'll present the first piece of the strategic narrative, like this shift in the world, old game, new game. I'll show a bunch of examples: Gong, Zuora, Salesforce. I see as kind of the original one, like used to be software, now it's the cloud. That was a real archetypal version of this. And then I'll ask a question like, what is it for you? And for one thing I do is I have them write it down. So I have them write down, because free for all, like that just takes time, and there's a lot of prejudices of who talks a lot. So write it down. I learned this from Howard, and then I go around the room and have everybody read it one by one. And one person gets the floor, and everybody's really focused on them. Which actually like better than like some people like post it on the wall or post it in a group chat or a group doc. There's something about having the floor and having people listen to you, feel heard, right? I do a bunch of rounds of this, and then the CEO, and when you can imagine, we come out with like boards and boards of notes and ideas, and then the CEO and I go off one-on-one together for like a week. And we create a first draft of this thing. And then we come back to the team and we say, hey, I have the CEO present it. And I ask them 2 questions: what's working and what's not working? And I tell them ahead of time, like, this is going to be the low point. This second session where the CEO, this is going to be the low point of our work together. Because in that first session, you're going to be giving like gold ideas to this CEO, right? But there's going to be too many of them. So to come up with something sort of like clean and powerful, or have a chance at being so, the CEO and I are going to have to throw out almost everything, and you're going to be pissed. And it's funny, like I just did a project. I just wrapped up one. I wrote about this on LinkedIn, where this woman, she was a CFO and she was part of the team. Part of this small team. CFO is unusual, but in this case, it made a lot of sense because their product was a financial product. And she said, you told us it was going to be a low point. It's like, I love where we got to. But you told us that second session was going to be a low point. maybe you should have drilled it home a little bit more, like I was like, what could I have done, um, so but this airing of the complaints, like what I don't what's not working, and also having some what's working, so we can have a little bit of positivity. I also learned this from Howard, and and then the CEO and I go back again, and usually when we come back, the team is starting to feel pretty good about where it is. So, and then there's still a lot of work to do, but that's my base, in a nutshell, my approach to this alignment thing. And it's hard. I mean, there's always one person who I've learned there's one person is the naysayer, who's like, often it's a co-founder. I don't know why. Well, I have some theories about why it is, who's not the CEO, but and this naysayer I found plays a very important role. Like they're sort of, keeping it on track and making it sure it doesn't get too bullshitty. But at the same time, they're a real challenge around the alignment. I have a career coach, I write about her on LinkedIn, who's kind of like my part therapist for dealing with these situations, because they can get very, very emotional. Another learning that this work is incredibly emotional for people who are in it.